In that town, freedom wasn't a right. It was a gamble. The sun hadn't even broken the horizon when Elias Ward was dragged out of his home. No explanation, no clear accusation, just hands too firm, voices too dry, and the metallic sound of handcuffs ending any chance of argument. The town watched in silence. Some closed their windows. Others pretended not to see. Everyone knew that when the sheriff decided someone was guilty, the truth no longer mattered. Elias didn't scream. He didn't beg. He had learned early that in this place, despair only entertained those in power. The cell was small, dark, and smelled of neglect, old wood, rusted iron, the kind of place where time didn't pass. It just rotted. Hours later, or maybe days, it was impossible to tell. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Slow, calculated, the sound that comes before bad decisions. Sheriff Hale stopped in front of the cell, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You know why you're here," he said, as if it were a statement. Elias held his gaze. "No, but I know why you brought me here." The sheriff's smile grew a little. "Smart. That makes things more interesting." He stepped closer to the bars, lowering his voice, like revealing a forbidden secret. "In this town, Elias, men like you aren't judged. They're used." The silence weighed between them. "I have a proposition," Hale continued. "A gamble." The word hung in the air, heavy, dangerous. "One night out of this cell," the sheriff said. From sunset until dawn, Elias felt his heart race, though his face remained still. "If you make it through the night, you'll be free." "And if I don't?" Elias asked. The sheriff actually smiled. "For the first time, then you never leave here." The key turned slowly in his hand. "What do you say?" Hale concluded. "Bet your freedom, or rot forgotten." In that moment, Elias realized the gamble had already begun, because in that town, refusing also came with a price. The night was never meant to be conquered. The cell door creaked open slowly, almost ceremoniously. It wasn't the sound of freedom. It was a warning. Elias stepped out with firm strides, even feeling the invisible weight of the entire town pressing down on his shoulders. Outside, the sky was already shifting colors. The sun sank slowly, as if it had all the time in the world, unlike him. In the square, only a few remained. Not out of curiosity, but guilt. They knew, everyone knew. Sheriff Hale walked ahead, confident, like someone conducting a show whose ending he already knew. He stopped in the center of the square and turned, raising his voice just enough to be heard. "Who done it did? When the sun disappears behind the hills, the wager begins." He glanced around, making sure every face was attentive. "By dawn, this man will be free. No cell, no chain." A murmur ran through the crowd, not of hope, of unease. Elias then noticed the detail no one dared speak aloud. There were no rules. "Where should I stay?" he asked. The sheriff tilted his head as if the question were naive. "Wherever you want. This town is yours." For one night, some men exchanged quick glances. Others lowered their heads, because freedom here never came without permission. Hale approached Elias and spoke softly, too close. "You think this is about justice," he whispered. "It's not." He smiled. "It's about proving that no one survives a full night here unbroken." The sun touched the horizon and disappeared. The silence that followed was heavy, almost tangible. Doors began to close. Windows went dark, as if the entire town held its breath, waiting for a mistake. Elias walked, without a clear destination. Each step echoed far too loudly. He felt the hidden gazes, felt the fear of others, and his own. In that moment, he understood the cruel truth of the wager. It wasn't surviving the night. It was enduring what it would do to him. Because it wasn't the hours the sheriff was betting on. It was the people, the hunger, the exhaustion, the temptation to ask for help, and the cost of doing so. Somewhere in the darkness, a door creaked. Then another. Footsteps began to emerge, distant but watchful. The night was never meant to be conquered. It was designed to crush, and Elias was exactly where the sheriff wanted him, alone. Too free, and completely exposed. The city place, too. The first test of the night didn't come with violence. It came with silence. Elias walked through the almost empty streets. Noticing the city wasn't asleep, it was only pretending. Curtains shifted. Shadows adjusted behind the windows. He could feel the eyes, even without seeing them. Freedom under watch isn't freedom. It's a trap. The cold began to seep under his shirt, slow, persistent. Not the cold of the weather, but the kind that comes when you realize you've been placed at the center of something bigger, something dirty. Footsteps echoed behind him. Elias stopped. "You don't need to turn," a hoarse voice said. "I didn't come to hurt you." He recognized the tone before the face. Jonah Pike, the warehouse owner, a man who always spoke too quietly and knew too much. "If you got close," Elias replied, "you're already involved." Jonah sighed, as if accepting an old burden. "You shouldn't have taken that bet. I had no choice." "They gave you the illusion of choice," Jonah corrected. "Stop, that's different." They walked side by side for a few meters, keeping away from the lights. The city felt smaller at night, narrower, as if it wanted to crush anyone still daring to move freely. "The sheriff is betting you'll ask for help," Jonah continued, "or that you'll fight back. Anything works." "And what happens if I ask?" Elias asked. Jonah stopped. "The debt doesn't end at sunrise." The words landed too heavy. Before Elias could respond, another sound joined the night. Low laughter. 3 men appeared on the other side of the street. No badges. They didn't need them. Well, one said. "Put the free man." Elias felt his body tense. He didn't draw his gun. He didn't run. He did exactly what the sheriff hadn't expected. He stood still. "Did you come on his orders?" he asked. One of the men shrugged. "He doesn't order, he allows." The difference was worse. Jonah stepped back. Not out of cowardice, out of survival. And in that moment, Elias understood. The bet wasn't only his. Every person who approached would pay a price. Every word spoken could be used against someone. "Enjoy the night," the man said, walking away with the others. "It goes fast." When it goes. When they were alone again, Jonah spoke almost in a whisper. "The whole city is playing against you, Elias." "Then why did you come?" he asked. Jonah hesitated. "Because if you lose, tomorrow no one else will try." And Elias understood the most dangerous truth of the bet. It wasn't just his freedom at stake. It was everyone's, who still remembered what it meant to breathe without asking permission. Some doors only opened to collect. The temptation came disguised as shelter. The wind had shifted direction, carrying cold dust and an even heavier silence. Elias felt his body tiring, not from walking, but from staying alert every second. The night didn't attack head-on. It surrounded. That was when a light came on at the end of the street. A single window, yellow, steady, a dangerous promise. Elias hesitated. He knew that any open door in that town wasn't an invitation. It was an advance charge. Even so, he moved closer. Before he could knock, the door opened on its own. An older woman stared at him, watchful eyes. No surprise. As if she had been expecting him. "Come in," she said. "Before they see you standing there." Elias glanced to both sides. The shadows felt closer now. He stepped inside. The warmth of the place almost hurt. A lit stove, a wooden bench, a glass already poured on the table. "I can't stay," he said. She pushed the glass toward him. "Nobody stays. Everyone passes through and pays." Elias didn't touch the glass. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. The woman let out a short, humorless laugh. I'm not. I'm just choosing which side I'm going to be wrong on." The words hung in the air. "They say a lot about you," she went on, turning her back. "Some say you're innocent, others," she paused, "say you did something that can't be forgiven." Elias felt the weight of it. He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. "And what do you think?" he asked. She turned slowly. "I think the sheriff only arrests those who threaten his game." She stepped closer. "And no one threatens a game without a reason." Outside, footsteps. Many of them. Too slow to be casual. The woman's face hardened. "You shouldn't have come in," she said. "Now they'll say I chose you." "And did you?" Elias asked. She opened the back door. "Not yet. No, but you're going to have to choose fast." The voices were getting closer. The circle was closing. And Elias realized the bet was no longer just surviving the night. It was deciding who he was willing to drag down with him. Every kind of help demands something in return. Elias slipped out through the back without looking back. The door closed with too much care, the kind of care that gives fear away. The moment his boots touched the cold ground of the yard, he knew the night had changed its tone. It was no longer just watching. It was patient pursuit. He moved between fences and shadows, feeling the weight settle on his shoulders. His body asked for rest. His mind didn't. Because in that town, resting meant lowering your guard. You run like someone who's run before. The voice came from the dark. Elias stopped. He didn't reach for his gun. There was nowhere to aim. Jonah Pike stepped forward slowly, hands visible, his face marked by a tension that didn't match the quiet man from the store. "You're wrong," Elias said, "and I'm walking like someone who learned when running doesn't help." Jonah gave a half smile. "That confirms half of what they say about you." They walked together for a few moments, keeping away from the main streets. "The sheriff's letting you move around because he wants to see how far you'll go," Jonah said. "He wants you to ask for something, anything. And if I don't ask, then he'll send someone to offer." As if the words were a summons, a figure appeared ahead. A young man dressed far too well for that hour. He carried a lantern and a folded paper. "Elias Ward," he said. A message." Jonah stepped aside. "Not out of fear, out of instinct." Elias took the paper. He recognized the handwriting before he even read it. "One word from you ends all of this. Dawn doesn't have to come." Elias closed his eyes for a second. "Just one." "He wants you to confess," Jonah murmured. "Even if it isn't true." "He wants me to confirm a version," Elias corrected. The man with the lantern cleared his throat. "No one here cares about what really happened," he said. "Only about what gets written down." Elias folded the paper carefully. "Tell the sheriff," he said, "that I've already paid once for this." The messenger hesitated. "Then is it true?" Elias raised his eyes. "The truth depends on who survives to tell it." When the man walked away, Jonah let out a slow breath. "What did you do, Elias?" The question hung in the air, too heavy to fall. "Enough for them to hate me," Elias said, resuming his walk, "and not enough to let me die in peace." And in that moment, Jonah understood. It didn't matter whether Elias was guilty or innocent. What mattered was that the sheriff needed him to lose. When the body fails, the city attacks. The cold stopped being discomfort and became a threat. Elias felt his legs grow heavy, as if every step demanded a new price. It wasn't just the lack of sleep. It was the constant tension, the endless calculations, the certainty that any mistake would be final. The city remained awake, not with lights, but with intention. On a narrow corner, the first shove came without warning. A shoulder to the chest. Dry, calculated. Elias nearly fell, but stayed on his feet. When he turned around, there was no one there. "It started," he murmured to himself. The second came right after. A forced stumble, a muffled laugh. The night tested his limits, centimeter by centimeter. He reached the drinking fountain in the smaller square, away from the main street. The water ran thin, constant. Elias knelt and drank urgently. His hands were shaking. "You shouldn't kneel." The voice came from behind. A young woman approached, carrying a coat. Her eyes betrayed fear and resolve. "If someone sees you like that, they'll say you're weak," she continued. "And they bet against the weak." Elias stood up slowly. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Because the sheriff ordered no one to come near," she replied. "And when he gives that order, it's because he expects someone to disobey." She held out the coat. Put it on. It's going to get colder." Elias hesitated. "If I take it, they'll come after you." "They already will," she said. "I'm the daughter of someone who tried to survive a night like this." The sentence needed no explanation. Suddenly, a whistle cut through the air. Short, sharp, a signal. The woman went pale. "They wouldn't go that far," she whispered. From the shadows, 3 men emerged. Familiar faces. Ordinary people by day. Now, enforcers of an unwritten order. "Time to lie down, Elias," one of them said. "For everyone's good." Elias took a deep breath. His body screamed to give in. His mind clung to a dawn that did not yet exist. "If I fall here," he said, "you'll never call this a bet again." The first blow came, then another, not to kill, to break. When Elias dropped to his knees, the world spun. The ground felt impossibly far away. Then a shout echoed. "Enough!" A gunshot tore through the air, not to hit, but to divide. The men stepped back, startled. The woman held an old revolver, her hands trembling. "He stays standing," she said, "or this city falls with him." The silence that followed was louder than any gunshot, and Elias understood. Someone had broken the city's most important rule, and the sheriff never forgave that. The sheriff doesn't sleep. Sheriff Hale did not arrive in a hurry. He never needed to. He came on horseback. Alone, the sound of hooves echoing across the square, like an old reminder of who ruled that place. The woman still held the gun, but her hands trembled now for another reason. It wasn't fear. It was awareness. Hale dismounted slowly. He looked at Elias on the ground. He looked at the men backing away. He looked at the gun aimed in the wrong direction. "Interesting," he said, almost pleased. "The night usually reveals more than people intend." He stepped closer to the woman. "You know what you just did, don't you?" She nodded, not lowering the gun. "I gave him a chance." Hale smiled. Said, "Dangerous." "No, you wagered your life for someone who may not deserve it." The sheriff's gaze dropped to Elias. "Tell me," Hale went on, "have they already told you how you became famous around here?" Elias forced himself to stand. Every movement was a warning from his body. "They told me versions," he said. "None of them complete." "The truth is never complete," Hale replied. "It's chosen." He walked in a slow circle, like someone assessing an old piece of merchandise. "Some say you tried to save someone. Others say you crossed a line that must never be crossed. And there are those who swear you only thought of yourself." Hale stopped directly in front of him. "What you don't do," he said softly, "is deny it." Elias's silence confirmed more than any confession. The woman drew a deep breath. "So it's true?" Elias looked at her. He didn't look away. "It's true that someone didn't die alone," he said, "and that someone had to pay for it." Hale clapped once. "Sharp. Dry. See?" he said to the empty square. "It always ends this way." He leaned toward Elias. "The wager has changed." Elias felt his stomach twist. "If you survive until dawn," Hale continued, "you'll be free." He pointed at the woman. "But if anyone else interferes, freedom is no longer yours." "That wasn't the deal," Elias said. "Wagers never are," Hale replied. "They evolve." The sheriff mounted his horse again. "Not much time left," he said, "and dawn tends to be cruel to tired men." When he rode away, the square fell silent once more. The woman lowered the gun. "What did you do, Elias?" she asked, almost pleading. He closed his eyes for a moment. "I did the only thing they would never forgive me for," he answered. "I chose who would live. And in that town, that was the worst guilt of all." The last hour before the sun, the town withdrew from Elias, not physically, but morally. Windows closed one by one. Doors that once creaked with curiosity now remained silent. Even the dogs seemed to have been taken inside. The night went on, but without witnesses. That was how the town punished a man, by leaving him alone with what he had done. Elias walked slowly down the main street. Every step hurt, not only in his body. The memories began to return in waves, as if exhaustion had weakened the walls he'd built to keep himself whole. The bridge appeared ahead. There, months earlier, everything had changed. He stopped, his hands clenched into fists. Cold wind cut through the borrowed coat, still carrying the scent of someone who had believed in him for a few minutes. "Not now," he murmured. "Hold on a little longer." Across the street, a man watched. He didn't try to hide. He didn't try to come closer. "Still standing," the man said. "I'll admit, I thought you'd fall before this." Elias recognized the voice. One of the town's oldest gamblers. A man who never lost, because he never bet with his heart. "Did you come to watch?" Elias asked. "Or to finish it?" "I came to understand," the man replied. "No one crosses this night without carrying something too heavy, and your burden shook too many people." Elias leaned against the bridge railing. I didn't bet for money, he said. Or for pride. You bet out of guilt, the man finished. That's usually the worst kind. The sky began to change, not light yet, just the promise of it. A pale blue, almost imperceptible. The sheriff thinks dawn will break you, the man said. He always does. And you? Elias asked. The man shrugged. I think the sun forgives no one. It only reveals. A dry sound echoed behind them, footsteps, slow, determined. The man stepped away. We've reached the final round, he said before disappearing. There's no audience now. Elias turned. Hale was there again. No horse, no hurry. The sky is lightening, the sheriff said. And I still don't know if you deserve to see it. Elias straightened his posture, even as his body begged to collapse. You never wanted the truth, he replied. You just wanted someone to pay. Hale stepped closer until they stood face to face. The truth doesn't change decisions, he said, but the ending does. The first ray of light threatened to break the horizon, and everything Elias had done on that bridge was about to come back to collect its debt. When the sun comes to collect, the first thread of light cut through the sky like a thin blade. It didn't warm, it didn't comfort, it only exposed. The town began to wake slowly, like something unwilling to admit it was still alive. Doors left ajar, eyes hidden behind curtains. No one came to help. No one came to stop it. Elias remained motionless on the bridge. Every second there was a reminder of what he had tried to forget. Hale took another step forward. The badge caught the rising light, not as a symbol of justice, but as a warning. You spent the whole night running, the sheriff said. Now all that's left is to decide what from. Elias took a deep breath. The air felt heavier with the sun. I didn't run, he replied. I endured. Hale smirked. Enduring doesn't wash away guilt. Neither does it condemn the innocent, Elias shot back. The silence stretched. Behind them, a few men began to approach. Not armed, not curious, just watchful. The town at last was watching. Hale noticed, and it angered him. You think this is a courtroom, he asked. That surviving until dawn is enough to make you a hero? Elias turned slowly, facing not only the sheriff, but everyone around them. No, his voice was steady despite the exhaustion. I know I'm no hero. I never was. A brief pause. But I'm not the criminal you bet I would be. A murmur rippled through the street. Hale clenched his jaw. You made a choice that night, he said. And choices have a price. They do, Elias agreed. But the one who collects also chooses. The sun climbed a little higher. Now it was impossible to hide faces or intentions. Hale looked around and realized something new and dangerous. Doubt. Last chance, he said, his voice lower. Confess. Give me something, anything, and I end this now. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. The bridge, the falling body, the scream that never left his throat. When he opened his eyes, he spoke. If I tell you, you won't like what you find out, because the game you think I lost, he locked eyes with Hale, was the one that saved this town from a greater mistake. The silence turned heavy. The sun, now fully above the horizon, watched it all, and Hale understood too late. This was not the morning of victory. It was the morning of reckoning. What was really wagered? The sun was already high when Elias began to speak. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask for attention. And yet the whole town stopped. That night on the bridge, he said, didn't begin the way you think. Hale stood motionless, his face hard, his eyes far too alert for someone who claimed not to care. There was a man with me, Elias continued. He wasn't an enemy. He wasn't a friend. He was someone trying to run from something bigger than himself. A few faces in the crowd tightened, late recognition. He offered me a wager, Elias said. Freedom. In exchange for silence. He paused. And I lost, the murmur grew. Not because I was weak, he added, but because I understood too late that the game was never about me. Hale took a step forward. You pushed a man off that bridge. Elias nodded slowly. I pushed someone who was already condemned, he said, by men who now pretend they don't remember. Silence fell like a sentence. Elias pointed toward the town. He was going to talk. About wages. About land. About who profits when the law chooses not to see. Hale felt the weight shift. "You killed him to save yourself," the sheriff said, but his voice faltered. "No," Elias replied. "I condemned myself so this wouldn't continue." One man stepped forward, then another. The old gambler reappeared at the edge of the crowd. "I saw it," he said. "We all did, and we wagered that someone else would pay alone." Hale reached for his badge, not as authority, but as a shield. "The law is still me," he said. Elias met his gaze. "Not today." The sun illuminated everything now. Nothing remained hidden. Hale finally understood his mistake. He had wagered that daylight would break Elias, but it was the town that couldn't withstand the light. When the men stepped away from the sheriff one by one, the wager was over. Elias walked away from the bridge, not as a hero, not as an innocent, but as someone who paid the price and refused to keep playing. The town remained marked, exposed, because in the Old West sometimes the greatest wager isn't life, it's the truth.